The views, statements, and opinions expressed on the Coming Home podcast do not represent Fairleigh Dickinson University, its views, or affiliates. The content of these episodes are solely focused on the stories, memories, and journeys of FDU alumni. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Coming Home. I'm Michael Canetti.
And I'm Mike Ramos. And today we are super excited to have Stephen Bozer. Steve Bozer, he goes with the PH. You go with the PH, right? So someday I'm going to chat GPT why people use the PH.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's like the Jeffs with a GEO.
But so we have Stephen Bozer today. And for me, Steve and I first met on the board of governors. Steve was actually my what do you call it? I guess the mentor coming onto the board, and I got to know Steve. And then this year, we'll get into where he's been, where he's going. But Steve was nominated for a Pinnacle Award, received the Pinnacle Award, which is a great honor here at the university. Maybe Steve can actually tell you more about the actual award, because while I just call it one of the most prestigious on the university, it's well deserved. Steve works at pharmaceutical. We'll get into that. Thank you for coming to the show.
Oh, Mike, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You got it. So listen, in all of our podcasts, the way we format it is tell us a little bit about who you are before you got to FDU. We'll go into where you were while you were at FDU. We'll talk about where you are now, but I definitely want to get into that Pinnacle Award. And I really want to kind of not scrutinize. I want to talk about your script, because when we talk about these podcasts, a lot of people talk about their mentors and their networks. And you were so profound in the people who have touched you along the way. So I really want to make sure we get into that. So really, I'm going to give you the mic. Tell us who you are, where you come from, and really how you found FDU.
Okay, and it's a fantastic journey. I love telling it, and I'm just so grateful to be here with you guys on this podcast. So I'm Steve Bozer, and I was born in Buffalo, New York. Go Bills. Being raised in Buffalo, New York, it is a wonderful childhood. I was blessed. I had loving parents. I had an older sister, younger brother, and it was kind of storybook growing up in Buffalo. I've shoveled more snow than anyone. I'll challenge anybody. Just come to me. Believe me, I've shoveled more snow. But I went to a wonderful high school. It was a great public high school, Amherst High School, and it was the type of high school that just had everything. It had music programs, drama programs, sports, and my whole family, we were all engaged in all those things, and felt very fortunate to have that base even all the way through high school. And I was blessed with great friends. Many of them are brilliant, and they were going to universities like Harvard and Cornell and name it, right? And I was not as good of a student as them, but I was happy that they wanted to be my friends. But I was inspired. I want to go to college, and I went to Binghamton University. It was SUNY Binghamton at the time, and just had an absolutely wonderful undergrad experience there. I was a bio major. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I loved biology, and I loved being at the school. I swam competitively at Binghamton, and we had a wonderful swim team and experiences with that. But as I was getting near graduation, I realized that everyone that was studying bio and chemistry was going to med school. So I'm in a house with several of these guys that are taking the MCAT, and they're all stressing out about going to med school. And they were like, "Bozer, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I just know that I'm not going to fully go into med school. I don't know." And they were like, I'll never forget one friend, my friend Matt, who's a surgeon now. He says, "Well, what are you going to be if you're not going to med school? You're going to be a zookeeper?" And that just stuck with me. It's like, oh, those are my options? Med school or zookeeper? And I think like a lot of, Mark Sapera, who just was on a podcast with you guys, gave a eloquent description of the uncertainty you are as a young person, and some of that insecurity you feel. I was very insecure. I strangely enough, I'm very talkative now, but I wasn't so talkative back then. And I just remember I graduated, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Consequently, my father had lost his job. He was an aerospace engineer, and he had to take a job in New Jersey. Now, when you grow up in Buffalo, New York, You never think you're going to get to the New York, New Jersey area. It's too big. It's the Macy's Parade. It's Sesame Street. I mean, like, if anything, you're going to go west. And my older sister went to the University of Notre Dame, and so, you know, there's this like trend in Buffalo. You're going to go west if you go anywhere. But now we find ourselves as a family in New Jersey. So I come back and.
Where did you land?
My dad was living in Wharton, New Jersey, and I had gotten accepted into a grad program, but my funding got cut. So now my mom had to go live with her sister, and my dad says, hey, come on back. Things are a little tough right now, because he had gotten a job in New Jersey and then got laid off from that job. So it was like a lot of families. You struggle in times of when you all have to pitch in, and I moved back to New Jersey, and my first job in the state of New Jersey was driving a forklift. I was driving a forklift in a warehouse at the World Trade Center. I forget what town that is in New Jersey, but I was driving a forklift. And my dad, thankfully, because he just never gave up, and his motto was "Quitters never win, winners never quit." And he got another job at an aerospace company. But I'm living with him, and all of a sudden, I get my first crack at a part-time job as an analytical chemist at a pharmaceutical company, because I took biology, I took chemistry, and I said, hey, let me take this. And it turned out to be this unbelievable experience, a company in Paterson, New Jersey, a tiny company no one's ever heard of, but I got there, and there were wonderful people that were going to teach me everything. The people that owned the company, and then all the workers. There were 3 shifts, and these are a lot of first-generation immigrants trying to do their best, and I just was absorbing everything from all these wonderful people. Subsequently, I was able to meet some mentors that steered me, and I ended up at a much larger pharmaceutical company, and very blessed to be at Burlex Laboratories at the time. And I remember, this is where my FDU journey comes in. So I'm a chemist, and you aspire to what else can I do at this company? And my boss, Mike, and it was Mike and Brett, they sat me down. They're like, well, here's the deal. You're going to have to get an advanced degree if you want to go anywhere in this company, because it's a German company and it's here and there. So I'm like, oh, advanced degree. All right, let's talk. Let's see what we're talking about. They're like, well, you got to get a PhD or you got to get an MBA. And I'm like, okay, PhD sounds hard and scary, and I'm not that smart, so let's cross that off. And MBA. And the next sentence that comes out of Brett Kavaya's mouth was, oh, you got to go to FDU. Now, I'm not from New Jersey. FDU, I don't know. And they're like, oh, a lot of us went to FDU. And I found out, like, you start talking to all these senior managers at Burlex, like, oh, we all went to FDU. Their MBA program is fantastic. You go on weekends. There might be a class at night, every once in a while, and it's a fantastic program. And here's the kicker, and there's this arc of where I've always felt this need to give back, because I lucked out. This was a period of time when they said, oh, and by the way, we'll pay for the whole degree, including books.
Sign me up.
And as long as you get a B or higher. And I'm like, you had me. I mean, I'm in. 100% I'm in. What do I have to do? So they get me in touch with Walter Slajeski. It was the program at the time, and there was a wonderful woman. She's still at FDU, Michelle Vaccaro. She's a gem. She was the best. She calls you and says, here, I'm going to register you. We're going to walk through this together. I'm going to meet with you. She was unbelievable. Like, the process couldn't have been easier. Next thing you know, I'm starting my MBA at the TNEC Metro campus, and I'm in my first day, first class, production operations management, and this professor immediately was amazing. And I look around, and everyone here is in pharmaceutical companies, and I was like, this is heaven. I'm in. I am sold. I am going to love this program.
I'm going to cut you off just for a minute. I love the fact that we've had 6 podcasts or however many we've done this far, and you were the first person that showed up late and not know the university. And it just, I'm so waiting to keep this podcast going, because it's going to show I don't know what this university can do for me, all the way to I continue to give back to this university. This is going to be a great continue.
It's been a theme of every person we've talked to, for sure.
I love this.
Yeah. And so I'm in these classes, and there's this wonderful juxtaposition between the tenured faculty who are so grounded in academics, and you need that for accounting and statistics, and you need these things. And then there's these adjuncts who were all working in the industry. My pharmaceutical marketing professor, she was at Sanofi Aventis. The statistics professor I had was the head statistician at AT&T. I mean, so you're sitting with these brilliant people, and this plays a role into what I always tell students here, and people that maybe aren't as enamored still with the fact that you're in New Jersey. New York City is right there. Again, when you grow up in Buffalo, New York, you're not going to get here. It's too big. And I use this analogy sometimes. I know that for a lot of us, when you're at the Wawa getting your chicken quesadilla and you're picking guacamole on the touchscreen and you're like, what am I doing with my life? But you're in New Jersey. This is the biggest, greatest part of Earth. And I've been so blessed in my career. I've been able to travel all over the world. I've spent a lot of time in Asia, a lot of time in Europe. But man, you kiss the ground at Newark Airport when you land. You see the Empire State Building. I can see the Empire State Building from my office today. It never ceases to just thrill me. And even being here we are at the Madison campus today, Florham, and I see the Vanderbilt mansion, and it's just the ethos here, all the history here. It gets me so jazzed up, and I always want students to, if I can impart some of that energy, and they go, yeah, you know what, this is an amazing part of the world, and there are brilliant people all over the place here that are teaching me and are in my classes, and there are mentors everywhere, and mentorship is a big theme here. So halfway through my MBA, one of my professors, his name is Eli Amdor, absolutely fundamentally changed my life in the most positive way. I'm so blessed to say he's a dear friend of mine even today, but I have him in this class, executive communication and leadership, right? And within 5 minutes, I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I'm like, you and I, we're gonna hit it off. And this is gonna go way beyond just one class and one moment in time. And that's one of the powers of this university. I know it's been a theme probably of a lot of the podcasts here. As a smaller university, now again, I'm only on the grad school. I still don't know yet. That comes later where I start to learn all about the other experiences that FDU has. But I'm in grad school, but I'm quickly realizing I am in one of the best grad programs for what I want to do with my career in the area. And I just never stopped being thrilled with it all. And Ellie played a huge role in showing that, and I encourage all students, if you get to know some of your professors really well, if you're really clicking, keep that relationship up. Because years later, and I made a habit, Ellie and I we would go to lunch. We'd go to Viselli's, this Greek restaurant in Teaneck. That was what we would do. This is even after I graduated. I stayed in touch with Ellie. Once a month, we would go have lunch. Turns out he also consulted for a big pharmaceutical company called Teva. And one day, we're driving back after Spanakopita, Moussaka, we went nuts. He goes, hey, there's a position open at Teva. Would you be interested? And at that moment in time, it was 2009, and Teva was all the rage. They were buying companies, and it was like, oh my God, I'd love an opportunity to do this. So I always remind students here, if you get to know your professors well, trust me, you have no idea how much that's going to keep benefiting you, and they can continue to mentor you, and they continue to steer your career way after you've had a class with them. And it's one of the gems of this university. Again, there's these tenured faculty, which are phenomenal, and then there's these adjuncts that come in. And if you really make the effort, the benefits for your entire career, no matter what you're studying here, whether it's in theater, or it's nursing, or it's the School of Education, or it's engineering, the human capital here is the real gem of the university. It's more important than the buildings. It's more important than the resources. It's the human beings that are actually here are really phenomenal and special, and changed my life immeasurably.
It's funny you say that, because Howard Liebob, who's the department chair for the film department, was my teacher when I was here, and a few years I stayed in touch with him forever. Even when I went through grad school, talked to him and asked questions, and then an opportunity came for me to come back and teach here, and he reached out to me, and it was like an instant yes. I couldn't just do it. And the 3 years that I've been teaching here has been some of the most rewarding years of my life as an adult, or even just as an academic or whatever. But it just really feels something special. And the other thing that I wanted to point out was, you talked about going back for graduate school. And I think you go back with a different perspective when you go to grad school, and you see things different. I'm from New York. I live in Long Island. I know Binghamton. I used to work for SUNY schools. I work for CUNY as well. And there's a different mindset when you're going from that kind of a school to graduate school in a small university, in a private school. And I could hear it in your voice how excited you were about that program, which is cool.
Yeah, and I lucked out too, because I moved halfway through my MBA. So I did half my MBA up in the Teaneck campus, and I did half of it here in the Florham campus. So I got to get the flavor of both campuses. I understood that, wow, FDU is such a unique school. They have, this one school that has the Division I sports program, and again, as a grad student, you're really not understanding yet what the undergrad experience is like. But I was able to see both campuses in action. And then, I graduated. It goes by fast. And subsequently, that did good things for my career. And like I said, Ellie Amdor played a huge role in getting me a next huge position at a company that let me travel the world. But one of the great things was I was asked shortly after I graduated to join the Alumni Board of Governors. Now, I didn't know what that was. I remember it was Rick
Everybody
Reese.
says that. I don't know what that was.
I mean, I think it was Rick Reese and Ken McBride at the time, and these two guys, they came up to me and said, "Hey, Steve, you seem pretty enthusiastic." And I said, "What can I do? I got my MBA here, but I really want to do something." And they said, "Well, perfect. Join this group called the Alumni Board of Governors." I didn't know what that was, so then I show up. And this then begins this arc of awesome, because the quality of people that I started to interact with on the Alumni Board of Governors, many of whom had even undergrad experiences on Red Rutherford, had done the Roxton program. I started to really hear their stories. And, again, many of them had been undergrads here. And there were also many who also were grad students like me. But then I started to really appreciate what this university was giving students on the undergrad level, because I was interacting with these alums. And one of our charters on the Alumni Board of Governors is to engage alumni. And it's been this mission of FDU, and it has, there's been struggles. There's been struggles to engage alumni. There were many alumni we found out that, when Rutherford had to close, they felt a little bit, disenchanted about things, and we were striving to change that. We were trying to change the narrative and get more and more alumni to be interested in what FDU was doing. And of course, this now begins when FDU started doing a lot of great things. They had a campus in Vancouver was started. That was a major deal. And then programs on both the TNEC and the Florham campus start building and building and building. And I remember there was a capital campaign at the time, and there was a lot of energy around that. Michael Adams was the president at the time. I got to know him pretty well. Phenomenal man. When he passed, that was a big loss, because he actually, just a personal story, my brother was going through some tough times. He actually took the time to email me, because my brother's a veteran, and Michael Adams was a veteran. And one day I was telling him about my brother, and he took the time to email me. He's the president of a university. He's a busy guy. And I get this, emails, how's your brother doing? I mean,
Wow.
Again, that just speaks to the type of human beings you find here. And I'll never forget that act of kindness. But so I've joined this Alumni Board of Governors, and I just start meeting wonderful people. Now this group is ambitious. We're trying to have these different alumni events. We're trying to be creative, and there are different committees you're on. And I just loved it. And I had so much support from my wife too, because you spend a lot of time. It's like, where are you going today? Oh, I'm going to Alumni Board of Governors meeting. I'm going to be gone for the whole day. And thank God she really saw how much FDU had meant to me. She was always supportive, like, you go, and eventually she started coming to a lot of events, and she's pretty much an honorary alum.
This is where I chime in on the same thing, because my wife, being on the Board of Governors, now has friends through all of the events that we go to, right? And
That's
literally,
cool.
she shows up and sees her girls or sees her guys or Steve's, Mark and Steve is hugging. Hi, Nick, how are you?
That's cool.
She just has friends,
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as we were focusing on alumni engagement, which is kind of the charter of the Alumni Board of Governors, we also realized too, we want to build the alumni of the future. We want to spend as much time with students as possible to be there for them, and again, to the anxiety that students have, maybe their junior, senior year. There's financial issues, right? Some have to, how do I apply for scholarships? There's all sorts of ways that you, as an alum, can help tap into and speak to students who are going through some of the same, they are going through the same periods of anxiety and periods of insecurity that you went through. And when you're there for them in that moment, to be that alum that says, oh, I was there too. I remember those nights thinking, what am I doing with my life, or insecurity, or can I even continue my degree? So we started spending time making sure that we were interacting with students, and mainly on the undergrad level, I would say. And that, I think, has paid off, because we noticed that the engagement of recent alumni, let's say alumni of the past 10 years, was at a pretty high level. Whereas as we were approaching alums, who were in their 50s and 60s and even 70s sometimes, that was a little bit of a harder sell to get them to kind of come back. But it was an easy sell to the recent graduates who...
It's amazing how many, even like the film program, they graduated last year. A dozen of them came back this week for the residency, or they came back to support their peers who did their thesis films last month. And these younger generation really want to keep coming back. It's very interesting. Like, my generation wasn't like that, and this one does.
And they're engaging in all the right social media platforms, right? We noticed, you approach an older alum, they'd be like, well, I haven't gotten anything in the mail in, 20 years. And you're like, mail? You're like, it's like, okay.
But I think I'm a perfect example of that also. I was away from the university for a very long time, and then I went to one event, because I didn't realize there were events after school. I graduated, I was out. Went to one event. I'm like, wait, they do this, and they do these a lot, and they got these speakers, and I mean, amazing. Just basketball was new and fresh to me again, and just these UN speaker sessions. I love those sessions. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I got to get more involved. And I just eventually got more involved, and eventually was like, hey, here comes the Board of Governors.
I kind of have an idea, and it just sort of sparked something you said. Like, every semester they do career fairs here, right? And the students, especially Generation Alpha or Z or whatever they are right now, doesn't know how to talk to people to interview, right? Mm-hmm. I think maybe me being a faculty member and you all with the Board of Governors, we need to coordinate an event where we can invite juniors and seniors to come on campus and just talk with fellow alumni, have just general conversations to take that edge off of them being scared on going and meeting with, career development people. Maybe they make a connection. You never know. And I try so hard to push them to go talk, but they're still in that like post-COVID-y like Zoom era, and they don't know how to do that yet.
I'm going to give you 2 antidotes to that. One is we already do a ton of networking where the student graduates can come and talk with alumni, mm-hmm. right? And those events happen. But to your point about, do they know how to be the social and talk
about
people,
themselves,
right?
and sell themselves.
I saw a stupid anecdote, but I saw on the news that some university was actually giving a class on how to do this. And I don't know if that was a joke or if it was real, but they don't know how.
Yeah.
And they need to be shown how. And my second antidote to that would be, we just recently had a young alumni event where several the Young Alumni Board of Governors or chapter, alumni chapter had an event, social event, and people would come, from the Young Alumni chapter came, and then several people like myself, generations of alumni had come, and it was tough to pull them off the bar from their corner with the 2 friends that they came with to interact with somebody like myself, who was going to give them, I hope, a ton of knowledge.
Yeah.
Just a ton of knowledge. Why did you come? For the free drink? Mm. You got a free drink ticket, so you came? No, you came because you needed that experience. I was hoping I was going to be engaged with 31 young alumni. Don't get me wrong, there were some that were there to party. And when I mean party, I mean they were there to work. They were there to work really hard. Learn who I am, get to know me. I've gotten 3 phone calls, 2 emails, and a LinkedIn connection since 3 weeks ago. They're still thinking about the things that we talked about. Maybe they just want to go on the boat. But either way, I've made these connections. But again, several of them just, they don't know how. They're not doing it right.
They also don't know how to do the follow-up part of it.
All of that.
That's a big one.
Because here's something very interesting about this moment in time, and it parlays. So I graduated my undergrad in 1995. The internet was just starting, and we were sending our first emails on campus in 1994. And it was like a simple thing with these campus terminals that were monochrome. I mean, you think back, right? Your first email. And while I wasn't in the computer sciences, my friends that were, and some of which ended up working for Google, and they're very wealthy now. But think about it, Sarah J. Brin and Larry Page are my age. So like if you were in Stanford and you're my age cohort, these were the people that realized, whoa, this thing is real, and we're going to build it. We're going to build how to search it. I mean, so this, I always feel like I have this historical perspective of, I know what it felt like graduating in 1995 as an undergrad and getting into the work world and realizing there's this gigantic, massive change that's coming in the way we're going to interact and do business. And it all obviously happened because now you can hold up your super smartphone, which is the great. If I'd have told you in 1995, you want to watch every Mike Tyson fight, go to YouTube and watch every Mike Tyson fight. You can literally watch anything you want, and it's going to be wireless, and it's going to blow your mind. And we just all take it for granted now, but I never take it for granted. This miracle thing that we have.
Well, remember when we were kids, it was like, you're not going to have a calculator on you anytime you want, when you're doing math problems. Now you do. It's like
right. I mean, it's
cursive writing.
Yes.
But think about this, and this is really hitting home in my industry. So AI is coming, and I know AI is used as this. People don't even. What is AI? And you're going to get weird answers, right? People they struggle with even what it is. But when I think from 1995, and you add 20 years of what the internet became.
That's 30 years, by the way.
Or 30. Yeah. I know, right? Right. But what I'm being told and what I'm really starting to believe, because I'm seeing it happen in my industry, the amount of change that's going to happen between today and 2025 to 2030 is going to be a hyper compression of things at a rate that is so mind-boggling. And the FDU had a wonderful event. It was the Silverman School hosted it. They brought these people that were working in AI at big companies, and they were mainly pharmaceutical companies. And what they said was, we're hiring young people to come in to reverse mentor. And I'm like, okay, explain what reverse mentoring is. Oh, our older employees have no idea how to engage with ChatGPT or how to engage in the AI that we're building for our giant corporation. If there's no bar. And we're younger people coming in, and we're actually sitting them with our older employees and saying, oh no, you really should start to use these things, and let me show you how, because you just don't. And I found that to be an interesting concept. So we're students today, post-COVID, right? A lot happened, right? But the amount of technology that will touch all that they do, I don't care what major you are, I don't care what you're going to be doing with your life, what you're passionate about, you're going to be affected by some giant, somewhat paradigm shifts that are coming quickly, which is super exciting. I know some people are afraid of it, but I kind of actually think I would love to be young again. I would love to be coming out as an undergraduate right now and realizing, because I knew what it felt like that the internet's coming. And I remember I jumped on every little piece of technology I could. I got my AOL, I'm online. I bought my first Amazon book. It got delivered in 2 days. I was like, this is going to change everything. And I kept thinking that. And other older people were saying, it's a fad email, pick up the phone, drive and see a customer. It's like, no, I really think this thing email is, I think this is going to stay. And I think when you can start attaching documents, okay, and I remember like being like the young person, like, no, I really think things are going to change pretty amazing. I remember telling my company in Paterson we need a website. And they were like, a website? And I'm like, no, I really think we need a website. And they put me in charge of like doing it. And I couldn't do it. I just knew we needed one.
I was actually on the first, Merck had a WebMD back in 96.
Wow.
96. I was on the team that built that.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So, I've been building websites for that long.
Wow.
FDU gave me that opportunity to figure out independently how to learn and build websites.
Wow.
And I knew it was coming. Cool, I saw it. I knew it. I had Mr. Parks was my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade computer teacher. He was also my neighbor. So he always had these really cool computer things we would go over, and Mr. Parks would show us how to play, what's the digital game with the guys on the farm? Go West.
Oregon Trail?
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail. There you score.
And Mr. Parks is the one who introduced me to Oregon Trail.
That's funny.
So, but yeah, FDU gave me that opportunity, and I was vision, and FDU had a vision to let me go in that direction.
That's fantastic.
But even with the AI of it all, right? AI to me is like the organic of 2025, 24 is a buzzword, right? You still need an engineer that's going to tell it what to do and to be willing to understand those things and learn those skills. You do it all the time. I do it all the time. Like, you need to be able to give it the command prompt to tell it what you want it to do and how to manipulate it, because it's not perfect yet, but we need it to do something. And that's where the jobs are going to help grow, is in this like managing that AI system in a way.
Yeah, in my career path of pharmaceuticals, AI engines have uploaded every scientific article ever written. Okay, every the Watson and Crick 1953 paper, it's in there. Einstein's 1905 papers, it's in there. The latest journal of physics that, so these systems have uploaded every single scientific published peer-reviewed thing. You now say, what, as a human being, if I interact with this thing, how do I help draw connections that it will know, because it had read some obscure journal in particle physics that knows the property of the electron has this new thing, and then there's a medical journal that says we're trying to treat cancer differently with different electromagnetic radiation, and it says, hey, tell you what, it connects and presents to the human what you would never have the capability to do. No one would have the capability. It's, people, at my age, mid-50s now, right? It's like you stop reading journal articles, like you stop. I can't take much more. I can't keep, and these. So what thrills me is if you say to yourself, I'm going to have my C3PO. I'm going to have this is going to help me be so much more capable of taking knowledge, but then to your point, the human being has to be taught to think critically. And this is Ellie Amdor pitches this constantly. It's like, if we lose track of what it means to sit with students and tell them what does it mean to actually think critically about something, especially in an age where there's a ton of fake news, there's all the negatives of all this technology, right? There's all the crap out there. How do you sit with students and say what your mind needs to do now is you need to think critically, and you're going to be presented with a lot, and it's almost a little bit intimidating, but don't be afraid to use tools to help you decipher, but you still need to do the critical thinking.
Because if you trust it, that's your truth, and your truth may not be right because the computer didn't get it right.
Correct.
The
Right.
AI didn't get
Correct.
It, right.
It may not have done
You got to
right.
be able to question it. So, go ahead.
I do want to bring back. We never got over the Pinnacle.
Yeah, I wanted to come back too. I'm like, we're headed down an AI rabbit hole, and it's important to the education of our future kids. I always call them kids. I hate doing that.
Young people, the students,
the students, young adults, whoever they are. While those students will come to the university and do great things, Bozer had the opportunity to do amazing things on Board of Governors, and you didn't even get into the fact that you became the president of the Board of Governors, right? So maybe I would love for you to maybe start in that moment and tell us why or how you got nominated and or received the award to become a Pinnacle recipient.
Well, I should start by saying it's extremely humbling. I never thought. I mean, I'd gone to the ceremony. I'd gone to Charter Days. They used to call them Charter Days. Now it's FDU Forward. We always went to them, and you'd see these alums and these people win this award, and they've done incredible things.
In black tie.
In black tie. It was all tuxedo events and a lot of dancing and whatnot. And now it's evolved to now what's called FDU Forward, and I think it's a fantastic vision that President Elbel has for this event. But I never thought I would. I never pictured myself as one of those people up there. So I'll just begin with the fact that I won this is extremely humbling, and I'm extremely touched by it. How I got it, I think you had part of when you're on the Board of Governors, you have opportunities to take leadership roles. Again, this is a volunteer. You're volunteering your time, you're volunteering your money, you're volunteering your energy to say, I love my university and I want to help make it better. And then there's opportunities to lead. And it's like, sure. So Liz Catrini, who is, I love her, she was president at the time, and she wanted me to be her vice president, executive VP, which when they ask you to do that, that's the path to eventually be president. And I remember that the phone call that we had together, and it was, she's a great salesperson. She made a great pitch. And you realize if I accept this, it is a big commitment, though. I mean, you have to be very serious about it. You say, okay, now it's a volunteer organization, but if I'm going to lead this thing, I really have to be engaged. I have to make sure I have the time for it. And at that moment in time, like I said, I had great support from my wife, and she said, you just go for it. So as president, you have opportunities to do some incredible things, one of which is, so every university has a board of trustees. Now, these are the people who not only engage the university at the highest level, they're also some of the most amazing contributors financially. These are the big guns, okay? These are the CEOs. These are the people whose resumes, funny story. So as president of the Board of Governors, you get to sit in on the Board of Trustees meetings. You get into the room, and you also become an honorary trustee. Although you don't have the financial, you're not forced to give the minimum financial contribution. These people contribute an enormous amount of money. But you sit in on these meetings. So Marta Tallado, who is the CEO of Consumer Reports magazine, she's sitting next to me in a meeting, and her phone is ringing, and it's Elon Musk because they just reviewed the Tesla Model 3 and they were a little critical of the braking system or something, and he was literally calling her. She goes, "Oh, it's Elon," and I'm like, "Oh my God, really?" She's like, "Yeah, he's calling to complain. He'll say we
Shucks.
didn't. This is forget present day Elon Musk. This was back when. Anyway, here I am. I'm sitting next to this, the head of Consumer Reports magazine, and Elon's calling, and I'm like, oh my God, where am I? There were people on the board of trustees like Tony Vespa, who's I've befriended, and I have a friendship to this day. He was a major guy at Merrill Lynch. I mean, these are heavy hitters, these are influencers, these are very powerful people, who also are striving to make sure our university stays on track, and the president of the university engages with them, and the trustees have a very big role at the university. So you get to sit as president of the Board of Governors in these meetings, and it's the greatest jam ever, and you just sit and you absorb everything, and you're just surrounded by greatness. You also have an opportunity to get to know them and engage with them, and I could say many of them became kind of Pat Zenner. I mean, the Zenner building is right here. I mean, he was the head of Hoffman LaRoche, an amazingly successful pharmaceutical company. I'm in pharmaceuticals, and here's the legend. He's a legend, okay? Like people talk about him as like they talk about Bill Gates and he ran Hoffman LaRoche. I mean, and so here he is sitting right there, so I can talk with him about everything. And so again, FDU just has all these amazing people. So as president, there were certain things that I felt obligated to try and do my best at. You're only as good as a president as inspiring others and being there for them and encouraging them to also dive deep into the difficult problems of alumni engagement and the things that we're trying to do on the Board of Governors. And I'm blessed. The board is just full of amazing people. So I felt that several of the things we were trying to do as president, we didn't hit home runs every time. Sometimes we hit singles. Sometimes we had an event that blew ourselves away. But I wanted to make sure that we were going to keep growing the engagement with students. There was some resistance. Some people were saying, hey, we're the Alumni Board of Governors. We really should just be alumni-facing. We should spend all of our energy there. And there was logic behind that and whatnot. And I kept thinking, yeah, I know we do, but we also have to engage with students and show them who we are and grow the alumni of the future. And I had buy-in from enough people that we were able to do that. So you get elected to become president, and then if you want to stay on the board after your 2 terms, you become an emeritus member. So I said, okay, and you're voted. It's not an automatic thing. You have to be a contributor. Sometimes people join boards because it looks good on a resume, but are they really there? Are they really contributing? No. And I felt that our board had done such a good job of saying everybody here is engaged. We don't years before I joined, I hear the board had like 50 people on it or something, and many weren't engaged and they just wanted to be on it. So I think by the time I was there, they have really had a discipline that said, hey, we're going to have people that really, really want to be here and really want to volunteer and help. So then as an emeritus member, I said, absolutely, I will be contributing. At the same time, we start a pharmacy school. And that arc was incredible because there was a financial commitment from Merck Medco of like $5 million to name the school the Merck Medco School of Pharmacy at FDU. And turns out through all sorts of merger and acquisition nightmare, that money, all of a sudden, They withdrew their pledge kind of at the moment of truth. And so Mike Alvatroni, who had just become dean, faced this incredible challenge of, oh my God, we just started a pharmacy school and our single biggest source of money isn't there. And so I got to know now President Alvatroni of the university, but when he was the dean of the pharmacy school, I watched him, and he had a board of advisors. So I joined the pharmacy school board of advisors with other FDU alums to try and make sure that we have a pharmacy school. So we thought the vision was fantastic. There's only one other pharmacy school in New Jersey, and it's Rutgers. So watching that execution to pull it off and get the faculty and get the students, and I was at the first white coat ceremony for these students. I mean, the pharmacy school is such a wonderful addition to this university, and it plays a role into this healthcare forward vision that Michael has for a big part of what our university will be identified with. So I did a lot of work on that board to whatever I could to ensure that the pharmacy school could survive that initial hit of having your single biggest funds withdrawn. Then I also, I went to Silberman. So my MBA is from Silberman, and Silberman was beginning to design its board to be a little bit different. Interesting story, by the way, about how Silberman got named the Silberman School. Turns out that the man Silberman was a cigar magnate. He was a huge business guy in cigars and tobacco, and there's this great history about his giving, like I think it was $1 million to name the school after him, and we threw an event for his daughter. Or was it? Oh God, was his daughter or granddaughter? I forget. I think it was his daughter. To say, hey, the Silberman legacy continues and whatnot. So I started working on the Silberman board as well, and I think the Pinnacle Award. Gosh, again, I haven't given $10 million to this university yet, but
delivered it.
But
delivered it. I mean, it does, and we don't have to put a dollar amount to it, but that really speaks to your efforts there.
Yeah, and the Pinnacle, again, I don't want to make it sound like the Pinnacle has a dollar value attached to it. I say some people who have won the Pinnacle have done these huge contributions, but what I like about maybe what FDU thinks about when they want to award this very prestigious award to is they want to say, does someone have FDU in their heart? Are they really using their whatever they're doing? Is it from a source of deep passion, and are they influencing students' lives and growing the reputation of this institution. And I think maybe those were the things that they considered when they named me for the award. And again, I'm touched by it. It's such an honor. There are people who have won the Pinnacle, like Mary Kay Stratus, who just passed. One of the most amazing people ever at FDU in her arc, and if you don't know who she is, you should know, because she and her husband Elia was killed in the Lockerbie, Scotland Pan Am Flight 103 tragedy, and he and Mary Kay had met here at FDU, and so they had this wonderful romance that they had here, and then this tragedy. But then out of that tragedy, Mary Kay took the legacy and just continued to have FDU as such a major focus of her philanthropy, and what a wonderful woman. And so when you get named to a society where that she's on, it's heartening, because it's like, my gosh, and that it's touching.
So when we do these podcasts, I always ask people, who were your influences and who were your mentors? And so while we were at FD Forward, this is just over 2 weeks ago, you were up there, you said this wonderful, beautiful speech, and you just started with, you're so humbled to have received the award, and not once did you say I, in the sense that I did this or I did that. I was humbled enough to talk and see or mentor, name drop. You rattled off, and you've already kind of touched on half of these people, but if there was one, and I don't want to put any of them bigger than the next, but everybody has that heartfelt person. Was there one that really just got you?
There was Ellie Amdur, my professor, who influenced me so much in so many ways, and is such a dear friend of mine today. On the Alumni Board of Governors, I mean, I hate to. I want to name everyone because and I'm so afraid if I start naming, I'll forget one. So that's why I said I at the risk of forgetting to say someone's name.
Call it an experience, not the human, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would say Liz Catrini was a special part, because she's the one that trusted me to become president. That was a leap of faith of her in me that I really appreciated. There's Lori Lee Dixon, who she won the Pinnacle Award 2 years ago, and she's been a phenomenal person in my life. And then people that when I had to have someone become president, Deborah Jones stepped right in, and she did a fantastic job. And there's Nick Agostino, who's a professor here at FDU of biology, and he has me come speak to his biology students every semester, and that's really, really great. So there's so many people. There's the late Warren Oates. He passed away, but he was a wonderful alum who gave so much to this university. One after another, there's just this group of. I have a picture of all of us in front of the mansion that we took when I was president, and it's just this wonderful. Everyone in that picture is a true FDU champion who, again, they spend their time, they spend their treasure and their energy to help their institution maintain its reputation and build it and be there for students and make sure that this institution lasts to the next generation. There are difficult times financially. Higher education post-COVID, I've seen the numbers. I know the challenges of all higher education, whether it's. Here's an interesting thing that the Alumni Board of Governors did that was mind-blowing for me. We would attend the admitted students days. So this is where students come in with their parents, and they've been accepted to Montclair State, Rutgers, FDU, and now they're here, and you got to close the deal, and back in the, let's say, the 2009-10 era, when we're through the financial crisis, but when you would meet with parents whose kids had, this is for undergrad, and on either campus, they would ask questions like, how's the food here, and what are the dorms like? That changed radically over time to, how much money will my kid make, because this is freaking expensive, and I want to know, they have LinkedIn data, I want to know the average salary for this career path. I mean, it got to be so different what the parents were asking, and the students talked less, but the parents talked more at these things, I found. And so I found that to be an interesting change in just educate what is a higher education? Is it still valuable? And I troll Michael Evatroni on LinkedIn because he's constantly talking about it. He's like, for those that think that a higher education isn't necessary, or that you only need YouTube and you only need you need these MOOCs, that's all you need, and it's a waste of money and all these things. And he has all the data, and he has his passion to say, no, education in all respects is extremely valuable, and you will need it. It doesn't necessarily have to be the 4-year liberal arts degree, but please embrace lifelong learning. And he champions this constantly in his messages, and I think he has buy-in from like all the faculty on this concept of making sure we don't lose sight of the power of education and how we need it now more than ever. So, and teaching critical thinking. But you asked me who really influenced me, and it's too many really to name, but certainly I always am so grateful that I met L.A. Amdur, because he is such a phenomenal person in my life.
Where are you now? Where are you going?
Well, I mean, I'm very blessed. I say students, I have my dream job. Let me explain what that means. It means that in every way I can feel happy about what I do. Not that it's not extremely challenging and frustrating and busy, but I'm a senior vice president of a small pharmaceutical company that's family owned, where the family trusts me to run a big part of it, and I've got the best coworkers in the world. I have every single employee that I work with is an ace, is like a ninja. I mean, it's so easy to be like leading a team where every single one is amazing. We are a global business, and one of the things I love to do is I love to travel around the world. In fact, I've had this idea for a Silberman commercial, and it would be, let's say, a young woman who's on a plane and she's got her laptop and she's working, and you hear, Mandarin Chinese being spoken, and then you hear, you've landed in Shanghai. And, she goes, okay, and she puts her laptop down. She's got a Silberman sticker on it. Like, she's ready. She's prepared. She's ready to now go into Shanghai and do her business, and I just, because that's what Silberman is. It's this, so it prepares you. So I'm lucky. I get to travel the world all the time. I'm in India, I'm in China, I'm in Europe many times a year. Was in India for 2 weeks recently, and when you're lucky enough to work in a career that gets you to travel around the world, you meet really smart people and interesting people all over the world. And it frustrates me a little bit when someone may have a strong opinion about a part of the world and you say, do you have a passport? And if they say no, and then you're like, oh my God, like, rather than say these things, why don't you go, granted, I work in a career path in pharmaceuticals. It's so global that you get this opportunity to travel the world. And when I was getting my MBA, I noticed that a lot of because New Jersey tends to be this giant pharmaceutical hub, that all the students were also in the same boat. They'd be like, oh, I just got back from India, or I just got back from Europe, or I did this. So there was this energy in Silberman around how international Silberman is and will prepare you. And that's really because of where we are. We're here in this amazing part of the world. And when you're in Buffalo, Buffalo's in the Midwest, okay? I grew up near UB, so I did have a diverse environment around me. But it's at the end of the day, it's you come to New Jersey, it's the best because it's so diverse and there's so many different cultures here. It prepares you well to be that person that travels. So you asked me where I am. I'm in my dream job. I'm able to travel the world. I feel like we're making a difference in the drug products and the pharmaceuticals that we work in. COVID was wild. I mean, what we went through, that's a whole nother podcast about what did it mean to have supply chain in pharmaceuticals when the world shut down. People did heroic things in other countries, like in India, one of our factories, they basically built a town around the facility so they could isolate, and they brought their families with them, and they had clinics on site, and they lived there for 3 years. They literally lived at the facility because they're a biotechnology company that had to keep the organisms alive. So so anyway, there's stories like this around the world. But FDU provided me this stepping stone to get to my dream job. So I love when I talk to students. I said, picture yourself with a lot of hard work and a lot of determination, but someday you can have your dream job too. And when you have your dream job, you just know it. You feel it deep in your heart. You're like, this is exactly what I want to be doing. And you can get there. The path takes crazy turns. Again, I didn't go to med school. I started out as a part-time analytical chemist at a company in Paterson, New Jersey. But I guess I was maybe smart enough to know that, all right, there are people, I'm young, and there are people here willing to teach me stuff. And if that means stay late, come in on Saturdays, do it because, and that was I think hustle. One thing I've noticed about FDU students, there's hustle here at FDU. There's hustle. You feel the hustle because, we're not at Notre Dame, we're not at Duke, we're not whatever. But you know what? Duke works for us. Like you know what I mean? Like because I laugh about a lot of my coworkers. They've gone to the big universities, but they work for FDU, and it's kind of like this statement of pride of like. Greg Olson says this best. He's, the alumni Greg Olson, who, he was an engineering student here who found his way because of FDU. Then he went to space. He actually did what it took to go up in the Soyuz. I mean, he built an incredibly successful company that he sold, and then he actually went up to the space station with an FDU flag. I mean, if anyone, By Any Means Necessary, go on Amazon.com and look up the book By Any Means Necessary by Greg Olson, and you will read a narrative of a very famous FDU alum who contributes so much. They just named the center, the student center, after him up in Teaneck. But he speaks about FDU is for the underdog. When I came here, I was a misfit. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had 2 physics professors that just took me and molded me, and everything is because of that. And he says FDU is for the underdog. We're the hustlers. We're the people that are going to go for it. And in whatever career path, whether it's an education or nursing or the arts or sport, it just there's a hustle here. I feel it, and I always want to keep adding fuel to it, and keep people fired up.
And when I talk to students, I get the sense of that personality, that culture, and I always wonder, does FDU recognize it? Because while they recognize people like yourself, like the folks in this room even, we are all doers. I won't even call us servant leaders, right? We're always hustling to do something for somebody else, whether we're giving back to the Board of Governors, whether we're giving financial to the university, whether we're mentoring students and or alumni or graduates. We're always, but then our careers, we found our way, and FDU allowed us to get there, so we hustled. I appreciate exactly that word very much. I've appreciated everything you've said tonight. I wonder if, Mike, do you have any other questions, or else I'm going to ask him for a gem and see where he throws us.
I mean, you really gave me a lot of good stuff here. It was wild, and do you have any final thoughts and things you wanted to share last?
I think if there's one characteristic that a school like FTU can help nurture in people, and maybe it has to be a little bit inside yourself, but if you live your life with contagious enthusiasm. And what I mean by contagious is, for example, when I joined this little company in Paterson, New Jersey, it wasn't the prettiest company. It wasn't, it was my first job out of college, and it was tough, and I played on the softball team. I got stories about that. Me at Eastside and Kennedy playing softball with this company team. My God. But they kept saying, "Wow, you seem really enthusiastic about what we do here." Because I am. I'm I don't know anything. I mean, you graduate. You have certain skills, but you really don't know. You don't. And you have to be open to having the grown-up adults at an organization say, hey, if you want to learn, I'll teach you. And I guess it's a character. If you're contagiously enthusiastic, meaning you're enthusiastic, it has to be genuine, that energy, people then start to also realize, hey, things here are pretty amazing. What we do is pretty cool. We all go through arcs in life. I mean, all of us have our challenges. I went through a very difficult divorce, and that was hard for me. But I never got tired of being enthusiastic and curious. People use curiosity a lot as a neat thing. And you'll have a much richer life if you're kind to everyone, if you do have a hard work ethic, and if you have contagious enthusiasm. And for me, when I try and assess any human being, I want to know two things. I want to know, do they have a high capacity for kindness? That's the top. And then, do they have a work ethic? And it doesn't necessarily have to be, work for. It's just, do they use their energy to do something? And if you combine those two with contagious enthusiasm, you probably are on a pretty good arc to get through life's challenges that it throws at you, and to be happy. And I found my experience here at FDU, and every single time I'm here on campus right now, I just get that energy back. I get that excitement, curiosity.
There's a vibe when you come on campus. I don't know what it is. It's just something.
And it's both campuses too, because I can walk that bridge over the Hackensack River now, and I can just sit there and I can whip my Kindle out and I can read, and I just love what they've done up there. And there's a hustle up in Teaneck. I mean, there is there's definitely a hustle. Not that there's not hustle here too, but it's nice that the campuses have the different flavors, which I really appreciate. And if you spend time on both, this is one thing I wish they were closer, because they're far enough apart where some students never get to the other campus, and that's something I hope we've efforted to change that as best we can. And for example, the Division I girls basketball team is doing gangbusters. Let's get a bus of students here and get up there, And I know there are efforts to do these sort of things, and I know sometimes even with the school out in Vancouver now, it can feel siloed a little bit. One of the things the Board of Governors tries to do is we try to say, hey, we want representatives from all campuses. We want to really be inclusive here. We want everyone and anyone that had the Roxon experience to also talk about that. And I think that still is a little bit of a challenge. It's something that this school, should strive to. How do we show the students up in Teaneck, the Vanderbilt Mansion, and how do we show the students here that Hackensack Bridge and the Martin Luther King Memorial at that bridge and the watch a Division I basketball game, and how do we get them to come here and watch a Division III football game? How do we really try to establish that? Again, all these things make FDU a very unique institution. Not many institutions have that formula, but I also think there's strengths out of having all that diversity too, and that's a mission of all alumni to understand. Appreciate the fact that you've got these different campuses and you have these different things, and get involved, and you'll be amazed at what you see. I haven't been to Vancouver yet. I got to get there. I can't wait to see it. I have to make that an effort. You get invited to graduation up there, and everyone that's gone from the Board of Governors comes back and says, "Oh my God, what a great school up in Vancouver. That's fantastic." So. I don't know if that is a gem. I don't know if I'm leaving any gems.
You did
but,
it. I think that's what we're going to name the episode of this podcast, Contagious Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
That was the
I love
gem
that.
I was looking for.
I
I
love
picked
that.
up my phone. I wrote it down. I'm going to blog about it. I'm going to change the name of this podcast to Contagious Enthusiasm.
I do like that a lot. That was really solid. I'm like, well, I got to work that into a catchphrase there.
Overall, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with President Albertroni. I've gotten to know him very well, and even he'll admit he does a lot of listening. I mean, he's certainly here to listen and to, because he was a student here. That's one of the things I love about if you're the president of an institution and you were also a student here, that says a lot to me. And I think that we're at a very wonderful, unique time here as the university now moves forward. There are going to be some changes. There are going to be some things that'll be a little bit difficult, but I think the greater good is coming out of some of these decisions, and I'm very optimistic and thrilled for the future. That's why I'm going to continue to just be involved, because I'm psyched about this place and its future.
Cool. Steve, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast and hanging out with us and talking for us for nearly an hour about really fascinating stuff, and we really enjoyed having I loved meeting you for the first time, so thank you so much again.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Bozer,
This was a joy.
I also want to thank you for this. I got some history lessons. I learned more about you than I've known in the past, and this contagious enthusiasm.
Yeah,
for me
your energy just really, like, I felt it.
It's true, and so when people listen to us this particular episode, I hope that they will actually see and feel it come through the audio, because it is contagious to be around you. So thank you so much for being a part of what we did today.
You guys are amazing. Thanks for doing this podcast, by the way. I think you guys to organize this and do this, because podcasts are what people listen to. You're tapping into how people get information now, and I applaud you guys for creating this. This is your baby. You built this, so it's,
this is as grassroots as it gets. Let me tell you.
So congratulations to you guys for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Well, again, thank you everybody for listening. Remember, folks, no matter where you are, you can always come home again. Until next time, bye everybody.